They called her Maya, but rarely to her face. Mostly they said, "Tell the maid to clean the windows," or "Why isn't the tea ready yet?" To them, she was just the maid, a quiet figure moving through the marble floors, always early, always invisible. She lived in a small servant room behind the house, just one window, one fan, one flickering light bulb. She never complained. Every morning before the sun rose, she swept the driveway, polished the railings, and set the breakfast table. She knew exactly how much sugar the madam liked in her tea. She knew the youngest daughter was afraid of the dark. She knew the elder son hated tomatoes, but they didn't know her favorite color. They didn't know her birthday had passed last week, or that her only son had died 3 years ago in a factory accident. She didn't share those things, because in that house, emotions were a luxury she couldn't afford. The family she worked for was wealthy, not cold exactly, just distant. The father was always on calls, the mother busy with charity work, the kids polite but uninterested. Only the youngest daughter, Anaya, sometimes watched her, silently, curiously. Once when Maya dropped a plate, everyone turned in disapproval. Anaya whispered, "Did it cut you?" Maya smiled. The first real one in days. She didn't eat with them, she ate alone. Always after everyone had left the table. One plate by the back stairs, always cold. Never a complaint. One rainy night after the family had gone to bed, Maya sat stitching a torn school uniform, not hers, Anaya's. The child hadn't even noticed it was ripped. But Maya had. Her fingers were stiff from arthritis. The candle flickered. Still, she sewed. Carefully, quietly, lovingly. She often found broken things, a cracked teacup, a loose doorknob, a torn toy tiger, and she fixed them all without being asked, without being thanked. The guests who visited sometimes laughed. "You're so lucky, Rania. Your maid's like furniture, always there, never in the way." Maya heard it. She always heard it. But she never reacted. Instead, she lit incense in her room that night and whispered a prayer, not for herself, but for them. Because Maya believed, if God kept her in this house, maybe she was meant to protect it. Maybe that was her purpose, even if they never saw her, even if they never knew who she truly was. The day everything changed. The storm had been building all afternoon. The sky turned an angry shade of gray, and by evening the rain had become a roar against the glass windows. Inside the house, candles flickered as the lights went out. Power failures weren't common in this part of town. But that night, everything was different. The family gathered in the living room. The mother nervous, the father frustrated, the kids half excited by the drama. Maya lit candles through the house, one by one. She moved quietly, gently shielding the flame from the wind sneaking through the window cracks. No one thanked her. They never did. But something in her chest felt heavy, a kind of unease, the kind only a mother senses. It was around 10 p.m. when Maya heard it, a strange creaking noise from upstairs. She paused, listened again. The house was old in some corners, but this sound was new. She moved toward the back stairwell, passing the kitchen where water now dripped steadily from the ceiling. And then she saw it, a thin, dark crack running along the ceiling beam, another one on the far wall. The rain wasn't just outside now, it was seeping in. Meanwhile, the family was arguing. The father on his phone, the mother scolding the kids for playing with candles. No one noticed the cracks, no one noticed the water. But Maya did. She ran to the living room. "Please," she said, voice trembling, "I think you all should come outside." They looked at her, surprised. The mother frowned. "We're fine, Maya. Go to your room." But Maya didn't move. She looked at the father, at the children. "I think the roof is going to collapse." Silence, then laughter. A joke about her watching too many TV dramas. But Anaya stood up. "She's serious." Maybe it was the girl's voice. Maybe it was the look in Maya's eyes. But something shifted. The father finally sighed. "Fine. Let's check." They followed her out through the kitchen, just in time, because less than a minute later, a thunderous crack split the night. The ceiling of the living room caved in. Wood, plaster glass crashing where they had just been. Screams, rain pouring in like a flood, panic. But Maya didn't panic. She was already pulling Anaya back, shielding her with her body. She guided them to the gate, into the rain, where neighbors were already looking up in horror at the damage. The house wasn't on fire, but it looked broken, shattered, like it had swallowed its own secrets. The family stood there, shaking, and then the father looked at Maya, truly looked. He opened his mouth, but no words came. The mother, soaked in rain, placed a trembling hand on Maya's shoulder. Tears welled in her eyes. "You saved us." Maya only nodded. She didn't say, "I warned you." She didn't say, "You never listened." She just stood still, like always. Except this time, they saw her, not the maid, not the shadow, her. Later that night, after the fire department had checked the structure, after the kids had stopped crying, the family returned inside. What was left of it? And Maya? She sat again in her little room, hands folded, eyes tired. But in the candlelight, there was peace. For the first time in years. The shift no one spoke of. In the days after the collapse, the house was quieter. Not just because part of the ceiling had caved in, but because something else had broken too. The silence between Maya and them. The father didn't just nod anymore. He looked her in the eyes when he spoke, said thank you after meals. Sometimes even smiled. The mother, once hurried and distant, now paused before speaking. She began to ask questions. "How's your room? Did you eat?" Simple things. But to Maya, they were earthquakes. Anaya was different too. She clung to Maya, followed her from room to room, asked about her life, her son, her favorite flower. For the first time, someone listened. And Maya, though hesitant, began to speak. Just a little. She told Anaya about her village, how the mango trees there would blossom pink in the spring, how her son used to race bicycles down the dirt path, and how he'd once brought home a puppy without telling anyone. Anaya laughed so hard she dropped the spoon she was polishing. It was the first time Maya laughed in return. The family didn't talk about that night. Not directly, but the shift was there in small things. The tray was lighter, the tea sweeter, the stairs warmer. Maya was still the maid, but she was no longer invisible. Then came the afternoon the guests returned. Old friends of the family, stylish, polished, all perfume and pearls. Maya served them tea quietly. She placed the tray down gently, as always. But something had changed. When one of the women joked again about how lucky Rania was to have such an obedient maid, Rania didn't laugh. She cleared her throat. "She's not just a maid," she said. "She saved our lives." The guests blinked, smiled politely, changed the subject. But Maya heard it, and this time, she smiled too. Later that evening, the father brought Maya an envelope. Nothing large, just something small inside. "I know this doesn't cover what you've done," he said, "but thank you." Maya didn't open it. She didn't need to. Because the real gift was something else. Respect, dignity, being seen. That night, as the rain returned and tapped softly on the glass, Maya lit incense again. Not out of sadness this time, but gratitude. She stood by the window in her tiny room and watched the reflection of the house in a puddle below. It was cracked, but still standing. Just like her, the day she almost left. It had been weeks since the storm. Maya had found a strange rhythm in this new warmth. They didn't talk about love, or respect, or gratitude. But in small ways, they showed it. The father started leaving her favorite biscuits on the shelf. The mother left a warm shawl on her bed one cold morning. And Anaya. She was still her shadow, her companion, her unexpected joy. But nothing gold stays. It was a Thursday afternoon when Maya first saw the papers on the table. New blueprints, big ones. The family was renovating, extending the upstairs floor, tearing down walls, making space for a guest suite. And in those plans, there was no room marked for her. She stood silently at the kitchen door, watching the father explain the design to a contractor. She wasn't eavesdropping. She just saw what wasn't said. Later that night, she folded her clothes into a small bag. Not much to pack, a few saris, a pair of sandals, a photo of her son. That was all. She didn't cry. Not even when Anaya knocked and asked, "Aren't you coming to read with me?" Maya smiled, but her hands kept folding. She hadn't made up her mind. Not fully, but her heart had. She didn't want to be an afterthought again. Not in this house. Not in this life. The next morning, Maya woke up early, earlier than usual. The house was silent, still. She placed her bag near the door, poured tea into a thermos, and walked to the garden, her favorite place, where jasmine grew along the back wall, where she used to sit and pray silently before starting her day. And that's where Anaya found her. Maya. The girl looked worried. "Are you going somewhere?" Maya looked down. "I might." Anaya ran right back inside. Moments later, the entire family stepped out into the garden, the father holding the blueprint. "We forgot to show you something," he said. Maya looked confused. He turned the sheet and pointed. There, in clean blue lines, was a small room, tucked near the garden, labeled simply Maya's room. Silence. Then the mother stepped forward. "We thought it'd be closer to the plants you love," she said softly. "It gets morning sun." Maya's hands trembled. She didn't know what to say. "Please don't leave," the father said. "We were going to show you tonight. We just got busy." Anaya hugged her tightly. "You're part of us now." For the first time in her life, Maya felt what it meant to be included, before being needed, to be chosen, without asking. She picked up her bag, not to leave, but to unpack. The renovations began soon after. Dust, hammering, blue tarps. The house was a construction zone, but beneath the noise, something else was being built too. Something quieter, stronger, respect, belonging, a new space for Maya, in the house, and in their hearts. Her new room was small, but it had a window, a shelf for her incense, a little plant pot Anaya painted just for her, and every morning when the sun rose, it spilled golden light onto her bed. She still woke before dawn, still swept the courtyard, still made tea before anyone else was awake. But now, it wasn't just duty, she was caring for a home. Her home. One morning, the father rushed out late, shoes untied, briefcase in hand. Then, he stopped, turned back, and handed Maya a small box, her favorite sweets. "Just because," he said. She didn't say much, but her smile lingered long after he was gone. The mother changed too. She no longer said the maid. She said Maya. She even sat with her once after dinner. They talked about recipes, children, loss, two women from different worlds, but carrying the same kind of ache. And in that space, They found something gentle, something human. Anaya. She was still wild and joyful, still clumsy, still kind. But now her drawings had changed. No more castles or crowns. Now, a small woman in a sari standing in front of a house with flowers, and 3 smiling faces behind her. At the top she'd written, "Our Maya." Maya kept the drawing, folded it with care, slipped it into the frame that held her son's photograph. She still missed him. She always would. But now, she was no longer holding on to pain. She was growing roots again. That night, as rain tapped gently on the roof, Maya sat by her window, candle flickering. A cup of tea in hand, she closed her eyes, listened to the laughter coming from the next room, and she smiled. Because she knew now. Some stories don't end. They simply find their place, in quiet corners, over warm cups, in hearts that remember. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more soul-stirring moments. SoulStir Stories.